How's it going, guys? Dragonstar Protection here, back with another What If video, and in this video, I will be doing basically a reboot of an old What If that I've done, and yet it's going to be something completely new. So I present to you, What If Janemba Turned Good? But you guys read the title, so I won't be alone in this What If. We'll have the GOAT himself, Tyler, covering the second half of this What If, so be sure to go over there and sub to his channel for more Dragon Ball and even Cobra Kai What Ifs. With that said, let's get into this video. Alright, so for Janemba to even become a thought in this story, we have to do a little bit of a backstory and some setting placement. Therefore, our story is going to begin right after the defeat of Kid Buu, and I mean right after his defeat. King Yemen had just heard about Goku's wish to have Kid Buu revived as a good person. Yemen, like in canon, does this by using Kid Buu's soul to reincarnate him as Oob, so nothing changes there, but Yemen only uses the power and potential of Kid Buu. Therefore, that evil energy has to go somewhere. Therefore, meaning that all the evil energy was left in the soul cleansing machine, and whenever the pure evil soul of Kid Buu hit the cleansing machine, it burst, covering the nearby guard and all the souls of upcoming years with all the bad trauma, all the hell within that has just been trapped for thousands of years has now reincarnated on this one being. This would then cause, similarly to Fusion Reborn movie, the Ogre Psyche to develop a fluffy, innocent-looking monster form. However, the monster was far from innocent, instantly causing a chaos in both Hell and Earth. For Hell, Janemba immediately started waving his hands, forming barriers across Hell. This made it impossible for King Yima to reach out for anyone to help, but luckily for him, Paikon was sent from the Grand Kai to help out Yima after feeling the shift in the barriers between the Otherworld and Earth. Paikon attempts to break through the glass by punching it, but nothing is working until he finally starts to scream at it through frustration. This actually shatters part of the glass, so as of now, Paikon will actually be serving the same purpose as he did in canon, screaming at this glass trying to get it to break, but that gives us the question, who is handling Janemba then? Well, actually, Vegeta was still in Hell, so that meant that he was actually watching the ruckus go down just to be the first one to meet up with Janemba face to face. As for Earth, well, Frieza, Cell, King Cold, Nappa, Raditz, and King Piccolo all came flooding back to Earth. This was because the barrier between Hell and Earth was broken, so the enemies of all came from places of death, and this was just so happened to be the exact same time that Goku was about to leave for the Dragon Balls together to fix the damage of the fight that Buu had caused, meaning that Goku doesn't leave just yet, sensing the powers of their past opponents. Goku's first encounter was actually with Frieza, but as we all know, Frieza is outmatched and outclassed, and Cell, he had a rematch to attend with Gohan, and Gohan was ultimate at this point, so he really puts it to Cell's ego, now twice. King Cold finds himself getting bounced in the air as a volleyball by Goten, as Nappa, before even having a chance to dash off, was knocked to the ground just for seconds. His arm was sliced off as Nappa looks up, seeing Tenshinhan standing above him as Tenshinhan turns, showing that he's no longer a helpless Earthling like Nappa once said that he was. And Nappa's long-haired, less palatable friend Raditz, well, when he comes to Earth, he's met by Krillin, who is just rushing him and slaps him right across the face, slamming him through several mountains, but they kept returning. The process repeated, and the Z-Fighters had no idea why until suddenly Goku felt a spike in power, and that power felt like Vegeta, as Goku then uses his instant transmission, and he's then placed right into the battle, right next to Vegeta, who had just powered up into Super Saiyan 2. However, let's backtrack to the start of Janemba and Vegeta's first encounter. For starters, the childish nature of Janemba rubs Vegeta the wrong way, as Vegeta saw no point in trying to reason and talk sense to a monster that had none, or at least that's what Vegeta thought, because whenever Vegeta came flying towards Janemba, before Vegeta could even reach Janemba's fist came coming through a portal, making contact with Vegeta's jaw, crashing him to the ground. Vegeta then angrily wipes his mouth as he then darts once more towards the yellow Pillsbury Doughboy. But once more, Vegeta was knocked sideways from a punch from a portal. However, the punch was followed by a kick and then another fist. Eventually, Vegeta finally powers up into Super Saiyan, tired of the games of this dirty Michelin man has been playing, so he finally decides to snap. But pissing the prince off even more was that these games had just begun, as Genema would start creating smaller versions of himself that would wobble in Vegeta's direction. Vegeta though simply pulls his arm back, releasing a Gallic gun that completely obliterates the clones. However, the Gallic gun wasn't finished. It was actually heading right towards the real Janemba, just for Vegeta somehow to have them actually blocked and his own attack be bounced bounced back at him, as a mini Vegeta is actually then shooting the attack right back at him in the palm of Janemba's hand. By now, Vegeta is enraged, having to dodge his own attack, and once he does, he then powers up to Super Saiyan 2, which is where Vegeta would actually see Goku as use instant transmission to reach the fight as well. Goku goes to speak with Vegeta, but Vegeta had already launched at Janemba, thinking that he's found a way to win this. Vegeta weaves Janemba's punches and kicks while also managing to charge up a full power final flash that connects directly in the face of Janemba, and Janemba couldn't dodge. The blast took his big ass body right over, and Vegeta then feels nothing, as if the job has been done. Vegeta turns back at Goku as the two start discussing what has been happening, but as we all know, Janemba isn't done here. Not yet. His body then begins to rattle and shake until pure evil takes its purest form, that being Super Janemba. Super Janemba, within seconds, proves to be a threat by his ki alone, as Goku notes how dark it is, how it's darker than anything they've ever felt before, while Vegeta completely ignores how dark his ki is, only focusing on how strong the demon was. Both Vegeta and Goku know that base isn't going to cut it in this fight, so Vegeta charges back up into Super Saiyan 2, and Goku charges up into Super Saiyan 3, and the two did exactly what they did in the Buu Saga. They put everything behind them and they battle side by side against a bigger enemy. The two are working quite well as a duo, but against Janemba isn't good enough. Super Janemba dissolves into particles, missing their blows, causing them to collide into each other. Super Janemba was also using their own attacks against each other, while also blending in his own from time to time, and in fact, Super Janemba had Vegeta and Goku on the ropes. However, suddenly a small shift begins to lean in our hero's favor, that being Pikkon finally breaking through one of the barriers to finally help release King Genema, who also was immediately able to set and fix the balances of Otherworld and the living world. This meant Janemba was trapped in one place here, as Pikkon comes rushing in, quite fresh, so he's then throwing off the weights and releasing a fury of fist as Super Janemba. Shockingly to Goku, Pikkon had improved a large amount since his sight climb being now in the Otherworld tournament. Pikkon's big boost in power also played into Pikkon's rage of having to scream at a wall all day, but Pikkon still wasn't a match for Janemba. He was just a slight distraction there for a second, as Janemba was way too dangerous, swiping a rock off the ground, making a sword from nothing, as if it was, well, nothing. He then uses it to slice it right across the chest of Pikkon, as Pikkon then goes down. But Pikkon wasn't out, not just yet, as he then starts to spin, as he then goes down once more, because Pikkon, who was charging a hyper tornado, was then met by a lightning shower of rain by Super Janemba. The rain was almost like needles, penetrating the skin, as Pikkon was helpless. Goku couldn't stand by any longer, while Vegeta brings up fusion, may be their best option here. But knowing they don't have any Patara earrings, they're screwed. But that's when the dance actually gets brought up by Goku, and this actually repulses Vegeta. Having to do some stupid dance to fuse, it's pointless. It's worthless because they couldn't even perfect it in time. And for the time purposes, we'll just say that after Goku actually shows him, Vegeta was actually a great dancer as seen in Dragon Ball Super, so we'll say they actually get it perfect first try, creating the Super Warrior of Gogeta. Gogeta and Super Janemba stare eye to eye, but for once it was Janemba who was caught off guard by the speed of Gogeta, as Gogeta crashes his hand into the stomach of Janemba, as he then spin kicks the sword right over the hand of Janemba just to slam him backwards, crashing him into the rocks, as Super Janemba was barely getting any breathing room because Gogeta was on the attack, and he was on the attack fast, until finally Gogeta has plans to end the destruction once and for all. He grabs Janemba by the horn of the head, kneeing him over and over in the stomach until finally creating a Stardust Breaker that completely eradicates all the evil that was inside Super Janemba. And I noticed I didn't say the Stardust Breaker killed Janemba, because after the blast connected and Gogeta defused, they noticed a teenager lying on the ground gasping for air. Whenever Goku and Vegeta don't feel any pure evil, like Janemba's, they go over there and they see Psyche's, and Psyche's energy was nothing of evil. In fact, it was kind of pure. Instead, Goku and Vegeta both feel a sense of innocence in this kid, as Goku looks at Vegeta saying that he wants to help him, also mentioning how cool it would be to fight him again. Vegeta just tells Goku to continue getting the Dragon Balls to fix the mess, and he'll stay with the kid. With that being said, Goku's instant transmission backs to get the Dragon Balls because, they were already getting them in the first place, so they had to fix the damage that both now Buu and Janemba has caused. However, one big difference here is that Psyche the Demon was now on Earth after Goku convinced King Genema to let him come with him. And with that being said, it wouldn't be easiest adjusting from Hell to Earth, but over time, Psyche would adjust to Earth's style of living quite well. Well, kinda. Psyche isn't the friendliest. He definitely doesn't engage or talk with many people, but he also doesn't have intentions of harming anyone else either, so that's definitely something. So Psyche is quite the lone wolf, but feeling the energy inside of him, Psyche would take up training with Vegeta in the gravity room. And for the reason why Psyche actually doesn't train with Goku a lot is because the Goku's positivity really rubs Psyche the wrong way. He doesn't like it, but in a way, that's a good thing because when fighting Goku, Psyche manages to slowly tap into that power that he once had. And it's also a bit of a difficulty because, well, Goku is on King Kai's planet, dead, training there, but because Janemba has a past in Otherworld, he's definitely able to go back and forth, so that's a big advantage for Janemba. So by the time Beerus comes around, Psyche has full control of his power, making not just him stronger, but Goku and Vegeta as well. And speaking of Beerus, typically Beerus' arrival is actually going to take place, in fact, the same, because it has nothing to do with Janemba, basically just the Saiyans. We can mention the little clash between Janemba and Beerus, it would be kind of fun, but only fun in the sense of seeing how Beerus would be able to dodge Janemba's moveset. Besides that, nothing else is going to change here. Janemba is still going to get wrecked by Beerus, but Beerus is going to be basically like blasting some particles in the sky, so that's kind of cool. But as for the next arc, Resurrection F, it has some changes, but overall it will end the same with Goku and Vegeta in Super Saiyan Blue, but I do have to mention one thing. When Psyche turns into the demon, Janemba, he's able to completely dominate Frieza's army. Before Piccolo and Gohan could even step in, he had full control of both Shinzami and Sagama nearly at the same time. Janemba was just too fast, too quick, as his hacks were nothing like the Frieza Force had ever seen before, as Shinzami tries to use his brute strength, but his fist just goes straight through contact of basically a pixelated body that Janemba had already teleported out of, that he ends up going right in front of Tagoma, that the energy wave that actually Shinzami shot out ends up crashing into Tagoma. And this actually takes Tagoma right out of the picture. And by out of the picture, I mean Tagoma is laying on the ground crisp as bacon. And by this time, Shinzami was just taking a beating when Janemba actually floats up to the ground, picking up a stone, forming a sword, and with one good swing, Shinzami was cut directly in half. And I think Frieza would have obviously been taking notes during this fight because he knew that he couldn't jump into his first form, it wasn't going to cut it, so he immediately jumps straight into his final form as Janemba then teleports straight in front of him. Frieza, though, barely manages to weave Janemba's sword, instantly realizing a close-up battle with Janemba was too dangerous. So this causes Frieza to want to fight Janemba, and he wants to end the fight very quickly. That way he can take care of business with the Saiyans. That's actually why he came here. So having this fool Janemba in his way is just another nuisance. So Frieza would then launch himself higher into the sky as he then shoots off a huge death ball. However, Janemba doesn't move a muscle. This causes the Z Fighters to all observe and panic when Janemba pulls out a hand mimicking of Frieza and using the death ball in the palm of his hand, causing the blast to then backfire, nailing Frieza with no escape. And obviously, this does some quite good damage, but Frieza still wouldn't be out. Not yet. He would be quite battered, but pissed. And I think getting hit by his own blast would then tip his anger over, causing Frieza to go golden, which all the way on Beerus' planet then spikes, and Goku is able to actually notice, making him and Vegeta easier to teleport over there, and honestly a lot sooner than what Gohan would have done in canon. So it doesn't quite feel like sooner, but Janemba does make quick work, so that's why it is much sooner than it was in canon. So Frieza would actually be likely rushing towards Janemba, but would immediately be stopped in his tracks as Vegeta and Goku teleport on the battlefield, as Janemba may attempt to fight Frieza, but I think this would ultimately end as the same as canon, with Goku and Vegeta doing their hoorah. Then you could say the end of the movie. Vegeta, he tries to win, doing his blast, it doesn't work, Frieza blows up the planet. If I could turn back time. Time's turned back, and well, Goku saves the day. Yay! But now we're going to be heading into the Universe 6 tournament, and I won't be covering that part. Instead, I will let my homie Tyler take over from here on out. My bad. I didn't realize the sponsor would be right now. Don't you love when rude cars are just going by outside and you can't ever hear them? Well, you know what stops that? Well, you know what it really doesn't stop that, but my Patreon. Tiers start at $1, and with that being said, you can also go all the way up to $25, where you can get special rewards exclusively only on my Patreon. Special merch from like your favorite what ifs, such as what if Shallow was canon, what if Dragonstar was in Dragon Ball, what if Bardock never left, certain things like that. So when you take that in consideration, you have to ask yourself, what is it that you don't have? A subscription to my Patreon.
Hey guys, I appreciate Dragonstar for having me onto the channel, and if you guys want more Dragon Ball what ifs that aren't just specifically on Dragonstar's channel, well, you guys can go and check out my channel. But let's just shut up about that and let's just get back into the what if. Now we would move on to the Universe 6 arc, which Janemba would be selected as one of the members of Universe 6 in the Tournament of Destroyers arc. This changes the lineup from the tournament mainly for the fact Beerus doesn't bring up Monaka. Which means for Team Universe 7 we got Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Majin Buu, and Janemba. Also, I know he has a first name, but I don't know how to pronounce it, so that's why I'm not saying it, sorry. Now, surprisingly for the most part, the tournament really doesn't change up until the fight with Hit. Yes, this is a big skip, but the order wouldn't change and Janemba would be placed right after Vegeta. And so Janemba transforms into, Janemba, and he would begin to combat Hit. Hit would be shocked due to not expecting so much power from Janemba, but this wasn't a surprise to Universe 7, as Janemba then leaps to Hit, getting trapped in a time skip just to dissolve himself out, and would then slam his tail into Hit's skull. Obviously, Hit wasn't prepared for the offense of Janemba, as his style is very hard to counter. Janemba uses his speed to build an early advantage, forcing Hit to improve his time skip. However, it was almost like no matter how many times Hit improved his time skip, Janemba kept surprising him with one other trick after the other. Hit finally had no choice but to improve his time skip to 5 seconds, and that finally works on him as he then nails Janemba into the mouth. Hit then continues with the beatdown, but Janemba gets out of harm's way by transporting above Hit just to follow up the attack by shooting a mouth barrage at Hit and engulfing him in the blast. Hit was on the edge of losing, or that's what we all thought, leaving everyone for a surprise when Hit used his time skip to slide by everybody, improving it to 6 seconds, just hitting Janemba hard enough to cause him to barely fall off the ring. Janemba begins to smirk, picking his head, looking at Hit flaring his aura, showing Hit he too was holding back. With that said, Goku would then enter, and the rest of the tournament literally plays out identical to in canon, and Universe 7 would win. However, Universe 7 doesn't have to rely on Hit selling the match for them to win due to Janemba already weakening Hit. This then slowly moves into the Goku Black arc, and minus some training from Janemba, he doesn't really do anything that really impacts the story, so the rest of this arc also happens as per normal. We still have the original Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Piccolo, 17, 18, Krillin, Roshi, and Majin Buu, but because Ten Shinhan decided to stay behind to rebuild his dojo like he originally said he was going to in the anime, this allows Janemba to be the last member. And right before the tournament starts, I feel like Janemba and Buu would have been just training intensely. And also, I think pre-TOP, Janemba would have found a training partner, that being Majin Buu. And because these two really enjoy each other's company, not to mention both of them having kind of weird abilities from each other, Janemba finds Buu hilarious, while Buu loves the fact that Janemba has a form that Buu can kind of relate to. Also, Mr. Satan wouldn't be mad at all because this just means he has another incredible fighter to help him in the World Martial Arts Tournament. So over time, they really build a nice trio, and honestly, we can call them the Three Amigos in this timeline. But this eventually leads us to when Goku and Gohan would ask them to join the team, and Janemba would instantly be down to fight strong fighters, making Buu that much more excited to actually take part in the tournament. Although Janemba doesn't participate in the exhibition match, I think he would definitely be reacting pretty negatively towards Basil cheating against Buu. And especially when Mr. Satan gets injured, Janemba is ready to rush in at Basil, but Mr. Satan manages to calm him down, telling Janemba that it's not worth it. However, Janemba is hyped to see Buu when he beats Basil, and he would congratulate his friend. The rest of the exhibition matches would then happen the same, and we would then head off into the actual Tournament of Power, where our fighters are then transported to the World of Void. Goku is obviously interested in the other fighters such as Jiren like in canon, however Janemba on the other hand doesn't seem the slightest bit concerned about anyone. He keeps his eyes closed, focusing on the goal in front of him, survival. And as the Grand Priest blows the whistle, Janemba would instantly grow larger into his yellow form as he duplicates miniature Janembas to take care of the fodder opponents in the ring. But before the big Janemba could become a big target, he retreats back down to his devilish looking form referred to as Super Janemba. This Janemba, as we saw before, is quick and doesn't hesitate to get the job done, but first let's cover the Genema Clones. The clones weren't the strongest fighters obviously, but they were able to use their big bodies to bounce off fighters like Hermilla, more famously known as the Sniper, and also eliminating Jamies. As for the real Janemba, well, he stood waiting for a time to strike when he felt it. Dissolving right in front of Basil, dodging his kick, turns out Basil was going for a sneak attack on Majin Buu. Janemba and Majin Buu then team up against the doggy, and Basil does not stand a chance. In fact, this forces the other members of the trio to danger to try and jump in. Lavender and Bergamo come in guns blazing. However, this doesn't make a difference of the situation that Basil was currently in, except for now Lavender and Bergamo are now in this predicament as well. The two friends would then work together to eliminate the trio, and Universe 9, like in canon, is still the first universe to go. Majin Buu after this fight would get a little grumpy, wanting to take a break to eat. However, obviously he can't just do that, and so this leads into him falling asleep on the stage. Janemba, seeing his friend exhausted, would choose to stand guard and watch out for his friend. He scrapes some rocks off the ground, crafting a sword, awaiting for anyone to come near him. As for everyone else in the Tournament of Power, we'll say their fights go typically the same unless said otherwise. So we'll really only be covering the Janemba and Majin Buu parts of the tournament, because the rest is essentially just the same, and no one cares about that. Now after this, Janemba and Buu would definitely secure a few W's over the course of the tournament due to Buu just falling asleep and Janemba standing around him, so people just think that they can off-guard them, but then they would realize that they're actually pretty powerful. For example, fighters like Frost try to attempt, but Janemba would just easily blitz Frost. Frost would begin to panic, but luckily for him, time stops as Hit saves his teammate with a time skip technique. However, whenever Hit turns back, he witnesses Janemba staring at him with a grin ear to ear. Hit bends his knee, getting into a battle stance, and that's when Janemba comes flying at him. Hit sidesteps Janemba's fist just to be slammed by his tail, and Janemba stays on the attack, shooting off 3 ki balls right at Hit. Hit flicks the energy balls away, but this was just a trick because whenever he flicks the ki balls away, they busted, spitting out spiked ki blast that Hit could only dodge with his time skip. However, Janemba knew the time skip could only last so long, and the reason he shot those 3 blasts was because he was aware that one of them would connect with the skin, which in fact a couple of spikes stabbed directly into the assassin's arm, but Hit decided using a last resort and freezing Janemba. Hit does what he does to Jiren and holds Janemba in place, unable to move. Janemba is restrained and can't do a thing, and so Hit tells Frost to take the advantage. This is when Frost, while Janemba literally being frozen in a time cage, Frost is just beating down a sleeping Majin Buu and just threatening to eliminate him, which enrages Janemba. And it's not until Frost actually eliminates the defenseless Majin Buu until his body erupts in an aura of anger, breaking from Hit's time control and one-shotting Frost right off the stage. Right after this, Janemba then changes his attention to the assassin, making him look like a complete joke. Super Janemba wasn't even giving Hit a minute to breathe, and Hit was just getting hit from every direction. Whether it was a direct punch by Janemba or a kick from a portal hit, he just wasn't going anywhere. Janemba eventually placed his hands in the abdomen of Hit, screaming as he blasts Hit right off the stage, eliminating him. By this point, Janemba's rage had already boiled. Janemba was rampaging the stage, catching fights with anyone who came in front of him, which ends up leading into Aniraza forming much sooner. Now let me just say, Janemba versus Aniraza is a straight up all-out battle with everybody just going crazy while watching this. I mean, Aniraza is already kind of inspired off of Janemba / Hachiak or whatever, so it's kind of interesting to see these two kind of interact. Janemba is struggling to land solid blows on Aniraza, surprised at the fact that he's so big, but he's so fast. Aniraza starts to actually slowly beat down on Janemba, not letting him use any of his hacks or techniques. Goku and the others come in to help, however Janemba always had some trick up his sleeve, and just like in any other situation, this is no different, and while getting his tail whooped, he managed to find the giant's weakness. And with something as simple as a portal, Janemba pops his right punch at the Crystal 17 broken cannon. Janemba pulls his head back using a mouth beam to burst the entire crystal, leading into Universe 3 being eliminated. Janemba by this point has some heavy battle damage. In fact, it's the most pain he's felt since that fight with Goku and Vegeta, and this leads into Janemba actually taking a break and retreating into his Majin Buu-like state, which again, I don't know the name. Listen, I'm gonna try it right now. Ready? I can't. I'm sorry. Now, after reverting into his base form, the break doesn't last long as he gets clotheslined by a fast-moving opponent, that being Dispo. Dispo was amazed that in his weakest form he could take one of his hypersonic punches, but Janemba isn't one for talking, instantly dissolving behind Dispo using a double axe handle to crash Dispo into the ground. Janemba goes for another attack, but Dispo sweeps Janemba's feet, and instead of falling, Janemba catches himself bouncing on his tail, to then deliver a forearm that was weaved by Dispo, who tried to counter the forearm by hip-tossing Janemba over him, but Dispo gets caught by the other hand of Janemba, blasting him through a portal, creating some space between these two speedsters. Oh, and by the way, for Universe 7's POV, they are basically looking at Godsby versus Barry Allen right now. These two are just moving at super high speeds. Realizing that distance isn't really the best option when fighting Dispo, he tries to clothesline him and lock him down. So in doing so, Janemba lunges towards Dispo, but Dispo attempts to run crashing into a crystal barrier. When Dispo turned around, he was surrounded by these crystal balls, and this is when Janemba uses a technique he hasn't used in a long time. Janemba had his eyes on the target, and this leads into Dispo and Janemba both clashing. However, this would then lead into Dispo landing a punch, and Janemba then landing a punch, but then Dispo trying to use a circle flash, but that's when Janemba sweeps up a rock, forming a sword, and cuts down the circle flash right before it can clothesline him. Janemba then screams, unleashing an echo that shocks the world of Void as he makes contact with Dispo's jaw. The crystal barriers then collapse, leaving Dispo helpless on the stage, and Janemba slowly walks towards Dispo, squatting down, and simply with the force of wind, eliminates the speedy warrior. Now, even though Janemba just got a dub, he has no time to really breathe, because after this, Topo would then rely on his God of Destruction state, and because Janemba is replacing Frieza, this means sadly Topo is just going to be giving Janemba the Frieza treatment, but luckily Vegeta would intervene, and like in canon, he would just beat down Topo. And so this leaves only one fighter versus Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, 17, and now Janemba. So odds seem to be in Universe 7's favor, well they would be if the fighter they were up against wasn't Jiren. Jiren for the most part is able to take most of Janemba's attacks, so overall Janemba is more or less just holding Jiren off for the time being, and this means 17, Goku, and Gohan are way more rested than the final three are in canon. Jiren decides to finally knock out Vegeta, with Janemba attempting to aid his fellow partner, but this doesn't work as he's then met by Jiren, who would punch Janemba through the air. Janemba crashes down for once, not being able to pick himself up. Jiren approaches Janemba as he then goes off to kick Janemba off the stage. However, Janemba then had one more trick up his sleeve. He dissolves, teleporting behind Jiren as he bear hugs him. Jiren finds himself breaking through his arms quickly, knocking Janemba off the ring. However, this created the perfect opening for the father-son duo to then drop the biggest wombo combo of all time, similarly to how Goku and Frieza did. The two are flashing in and out of Super Saiyan simultaneously as they eliminate themselves along with Jiren, which means 17 is still the sole survivor and wins the tournament. Now I'm going to be doing the outro. I'm just going to record one, and if Dragonstar wants to keep it, then he can keep it. Now, if you're goated and you don't smell bad, you guys should go and subscribe to not only Dragonstar, but also my channel that will probably be linked in the description, where I do my own type of Dragon Ball what ifs, and I even have a second channel where I don't even do what ifs. I just do whatever I want. So if you guys want to do that and support me, then, you know, go ahead. But if you think I smell like cheese, well, it's okay. You guys can still support Dragonstar. Dragonstar and I have been literally preparing a what if for you guys, or like a collab, for like almost 2 years now. So I'm glad that we finally got one out for once, and honestly expect a lot more collabs between us two in the future. My name is Tyler, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks again, Dragonstar, for having me on here, and peace. Alright guys, now that Dragonstar is gone, we need to cancel this guy. First of all, he said he would pay me 5 jelly beans and they would all be blue, and I got 1 green one and 4 yellow ones. So what's going on with that?
With that being said, guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a whole lot of fun to make, and I definitely appreciate Tyler for collabing with me. It was definitely an honor to collab with such a goat like him. But putting everything aside and all this stuff, I really hope you guys enjoyed the format of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the new mic, and I hope things will be further improved on down the line. And speaking of improvements, I do have a Patreon. You guys can definitely go over there and join it. And tiers only start at $1, and they'll be immensely a great support to the channel, as what I earn on there I would definitely put right back into the channel itself, making videos and content better, more often, and just for you guys. That being said, Dragonstar Productions is out.